Hello everyone, welcome to another week. Welcome to the Australian Weekly Real Estate News Highlight. We are now at the end of January, and this week the auctions has taken off. There's a bit of a rain happening this morning in Sydney, but that didn't stop the heat of the market. Let's take a look of what happened today at the first auction day of the year. All right, so the first article that we're gonna have here is about who has made how much money in what suburb. I think that's what a lot of people will be interested in. For last year, at the beginning of the year, it was a very dark year for the Australian real estate market. In January, it was good. And then when COVID first happened, sort of around March last year, a lot of the agents have a lot of pending exchanges that just got canceled because nobody know what happened, what is going to happen. And then around July, August last year, things start to pick up quite a bit. And then once these things start to pick up, people see light, and by all means, it's a lot of light. So at the end of December, the light become heat. Heat become the market, and Sydney's most affordable suburbs has now come out. Homeowners pocket over 100,000 a year in popular regions, which means if you are buying a property and you have sold it in the year of 2020 when COVID was happening, you will have made on average around $100,000 in some of these areas, and just not some of the areas can go up to about $1 million or more in terms of profit after the calculation and the data from CoreLogic. So followed by CoreLogic review, last year showcased close to 92% of the property sellers made a profit of their sale, with profits averaging more than $500,000 in most sought after regions. Some of the big areas, like really big ones, for this one here, some areas has made like $1.19 million profit. I'm not saying this is actually the price it was sold, it was actually the median profit that was made by selling in these areas. So what are these areas? Let's take a look. First one is Hunters Hill, beautiful suburbs next to water. The highest profits in this area is around 1.19 million, which means if you buy something in this area and you sold it, and then by CoreLogic data in between your sale price and your purchase price, you made in the median about $1.19 million, and that's just crazy. Ku-ring-gai, $877,500. Woollahra, $740, Mosman $650, Northern Beaches $636,000, Willoughby $585,000, and the list goes on and on and on. But even that, it's just amazing to see how many suburbs are over $500,000 or close to $500,000 in terms of profits, by selling during COVID. So this market is a massive, massive market. And even for lowest profits, you still have areas like Cumberland, Rockdale, Strathfield, and they're all at a positive gain, 280, 300,000. So, last year, it's just a big win for homeowners. We will publish the whole list. If you comment our section, if you needed it, we'll send it out for you. And this was done by the Daily Telegraph, one of the most renowned media platform in Sydney and in Australia. All right, moving on to the auctions. Like I said, this year, it took off by a crazy heat. And then in the market, in general, no auction was scheduled or no sale will probably happen before Australian Day. But, this year is definitely a different year. And now it's after Australian Day. This is a big, big game day for a lot of people. So let's have a look at what happened at the Sydney auctions. Definitely, money over reserve prices. For example, this property at Picnic Point, this is sold for $1.4 million and $300,000 above the reserve. There are 14 bidders that were registered for this particular property, and this is the picture of it. So it's actually a pretty, okay property. I wouldn't say there's a lot of big features around it. Single level house, on the flat land, but this is something what people have just been crazy for, recently. the last year we had a report from Rewire, and they were saying that for a good campaign, you have 5 bidder register. For a fair campaign, you have on average about 3. But looks like every auction now, especially for houses, there are more than 10 bidders at a moment, at any given moment. And let's take a look at this one. In Kensington, 27 Millery Avenue in Kensington, that was sold $630,000 above the the reserve price, surpassed the $4.5 million in no time, and end up at $5.13 million. And this is across the board in Sydney as well. There's another one at 47 Dean Street in Strathfield South, sold for $1.821 million. And that is a lot higher than what the buyers expect, or what the vendor expected at $1.7 million. And across the Hurstville, same thing. Rockdale, same thing. It's just all over the place. And then at a later stage, we have 3 news that I want to talk about, 3 to 4 news I want to talk about in combination. Is about what the media's idea regarding this year's property market. Sydney auctions, let's look at what happened on individual places, because a lot of people, especially I've got people viewing us from the overseas, and then when we were overseas, people were saying, you know what, we're interested in what individual property was sold and what happened there at the auction. So let's take a look at this one, Erskineville. So Erskineville is a very good suburb, very close to CBD, next to Newtown. There's a lot of new developments happening there, but there's also a lot of heritage listed terraces in there. And this day is a 2-bedroom terraces, or 2-bedroom townhouse that was sold for $1.615 million after buyer's stunning last ditch attempt. This property is at 132 Union Street in Erskineville. So this is the look of it. It's about, definitely it was sold $115,000 above the reserve prices anyway. But on the other hand, this is just a very good place to live, but doesn't have a lot of view. It's not a very big property. The living room was average size. You don't really get a lot of big features about it. But look at this, it's just a whole street of people. And what's interesting is that there was 3 group of people that was actually going head to toe with the auction, and one after another, keep pushing the prices up to a certain point. And just before the auctioneer was about to finish up, and putting the hammer down, when it was reached $1.6 million, one buyer out of nowhere, none of these 3 buyers has come up and then put a final bid about $1.615 million to seal the deal. The late entry not only left the underbidder speechless, but shocked the crowd as well as the auctioneer. So this is what happens in Sydney. This is really just about how good the market is at the moment for the vendor, and then how much competition is there for the buyers. There was about 250 properties that were scheduled to go under hammer across Sydney today, and it is the highest volume auction since Christmas holidays. All right, so let's have a look at this one. So this is not a very well-known suburb, but it has come up the headline again and again, simply because the record prices keep breaking again and again in the same months. And normally for Sydney auctions, if something that was sold at a record price, in general the auction prices will hold for a while, or the record price will hold for a while until later on when market changes, when things that get sold more, and then when there's something that's new and big just recently happens, then the record price get break. But for in this suburb or in Sydney, now the record prices is being breaked again within the months. So the sale of 62 Churchill Crescent has been done for $3.36 million, and it was settled today, smashing the period record of $3.05 million, set out on the 12th January with the sale of 30 Lily Road. This is amazing results, but it's just not a singularity event. This is actually happening across the board, and we'll talk about it when we add later when we see the 4 news that was in combination. Lapstone designer home with the glass floor in bedroom sells to Strathfield family for $1.7 million. You may not see, if you're not really familiar with Sydney, you will say, $1.7 million for a designer home in Sydney is actually not much money. But if you know where Lapstone is, then it will probably give you another shock. This particular property is located roughly about 60 kilometers away from the center of CBD of Sydney. And in general, houses 60 kilometers out of CBD in the western area does not generate prices like this, but now it does. So record prices were made in northern beaches. It was done in in the city. It was done in the eastern suburb, and now it come back and refresh to even further areas, like somewhere in just past parents, around the Blue Mountain area. You're still gonna get a beautiful home down there. Nonetheless, this is such a beautiful place, but the prices for $1.7 million is absolutely amazing, and it was achieved by, looks like, very easy, and it's only about 917 square meter block, so it wasn't that big anyway. All right, let's take a look at another one. Vaucluse Waterfront sells for 17 million. Sydney real estate agents swamped by XPAX. XPAX has become a very center force for Australian market. A lot of people living overseas who have Australian residence has been locked away in London or New York or Shanghai or Hong Kong, and now really craving to come back to Sydney to live in this beautiful, beautiful city. And before they do that, they start to buy big, huge houses and apartments. And this one was sold for $17 million. By Monica Tu from Black Diamonds, and there's like 28 people currently stuck in London, New York, Singapore, and Hong Kong, desperately looking for Sydney residences in the $8 million to $27 million range. And this one falls right into it. It's a waterfront home, it's a beautiful home, and then the $17 million does do justice for this place. But obviously, this is something that was done by someone who does not even see the property personally, but actually have it viewed from overseas using the current technology. So last year we've been talking about technology, virtual reality, and now it looks like people are starting making decisions based on these factors. Next one, Avalon Beach property market rallies despite summer COVID crisis. And this is one of the four, we want to talk about it together. Next one is 2021 shapes up with the year of the upside on the Upper North Shore. Next one, Lower North Shore property market is set to boom in 2021. And next one, in-suburb property market to be very strong in 2021. So all of these northern beaches, there's Lower North Shore, Upper North Shore, and then there's the eastern suburb. So basically all the good areas where there's a lifestyle, there's a support of really good amenities, good schools, really start to attract a lot of buyers. And I haven't seen the media has been so consistent on actually letting people know how good the market is again and again and again, and now different areas, different suburbs. It's just absolutely amazing results to see. And the 2021, I don't know what's going to happen, but it looks like the media has been really united on the front line this time in general, where they just keep talking about different things and different voices, like the market's going to crash and that. You don't see that in the media anymore. I don't know if it's a good sign or bad sign, but let's look at the prices and then we'll know. So Upper North Shore is absolutely a big area that people really like to see. Lower North Shore is where we have our offices, which I brought you the broadcast in this one, today's broadcast. And then Eastern Suburb has always been, the crown, the jewel of the crown. It's just, early this year, there's already $40 million transaction that was happening last week. Sotheby's has done, a year job for a lot of other agencies within just 4 days. This is just absolutely amazing. And then just recap for last year, it was March 23rd. One of the agents said we had a Zoom call with our accountants at 11 a.m. They said, this is the real deal. It's time to batten down the hatches. And then it took us by surprise. When they put the phone down, it feels like the day after, the September 11th, dark and numb feeling. And a lot of people had to let go. A lot of business was shut down. And then everything was just not going well. But soon after July, August, the market started to pick up. A lot of these agents are now back on the job. So let's have a look at it. In Eastern Suburb, house prices has already jumped between sort of 15% to about 34% already. And then in Lower North Shore, it was the same thing. In Upper North Shore, it was the same thing. So I wouldn't really go into a lot of details with this news anymore. But let's just see what exactly will happen at the year 2020, 2021. And this is, it looks like it now is the end of January, but it's just the beginning of a really, really crazy year. All right. Thank you so much for tuning into the Australian Weekly Real Estate News Highlight. I'm Peter. If you like our program, please make sure you subscribe and then forward to a good friend. Or leave us some comments about what you want to hear about, and I will put it on the show. I'm looking forward to see you next week, and thank you for our sponsor, Plus Agency. I'll see you next week.